Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Social Studies class. This is your teacher, Mr. Clarke. All right, so we are very close to our Social Studies CSEC exam. So I just want to take the opportunity to wish everybody sitting the exam this year, all the best. I really hope that you do well, and in doing my part in assisting you. I mean, this video is a bit late, but I'm still going to go ahead and do it nevertheless. So in doing my part in assisting you, I have come up with some study tips that can help you guys, right? So I really hope that you will find this video useful. All right, so today's focus, as I said before, we're focusing on study tips for Social Studies CSEC exam. All right, so the first tip that I have to offer to you guys is one that I have always encouraged my students to do at the beginning of the term, right? Make a glossary of terms in your notebook. Your glossary of terms should have all the main concepts that you learned in class and their meanings, right? For example, gerrymandering, the manipulation of constituency boundaries to give one political party an unfair advantage, right? So the idea is to basically get a book and make a glossary of terms with social studies concepts, right? Or somewhere in your book, in your notebook, you can make that glossary of term, right? And I think that you will find this to be very, very helpful. It helps to build your vocabulary, right? So when you're studying now, you can, go back to your glossary of terms and do additional reading from there. All right, so that's my first tip. Second tip that I have for you, practice answering as many paper 1 questions, right? We're talking about the multiple choice questions, as many as possible. These will help you to develop your knowledge of concepts for paper 2 as well, right? So I have given you an example here. This is a question that was taken from a paper 1 question. Don't remember the year right now. Paper 1, which of the following is likely to be a potential benefit of CARICOM to a member state, right? The answers, the options: A, removal of barriers to extra-regional trade; B, movement of skilled people within the region; C, increased access to cheap extra-regional imports; and D, increased trade competition among member states, right? Now I've circled B for you because that is the correct answer, right? And this question now was taken from a paper 2 question. State 2 possible benefits of regional integration to CARICOM countries. The answer that you can write, if you notice, the 2 questions are very similar, right? So the answer that you can write: regional integration results in the free movement of skilled workers among member states, which will in turn reduce the need for foreign experts. All right. It is worthy to note that this same question from paper 1 appeared in a different paper, and the answer was structured in this way: reduce the need for foreign experts, right? So what I've done is to combine the 2 answers to give one possible answer here, right, as it relates to the benefits. All right, so the moral: experience teaches wisdom. Once you go through a number of paper 1s, right, it develops your knowledge of concepts, it develops your knowledge, and you can get answers from the paper 1s that you do, right? So please ensure that you go through as many paper 1s as possible so that you can learn more concepts, so that you can get possible answers to put to assist you in answering your paper 2 questions. All right. The next tip that I have for you guys, I know most persons would have already done this. Study groups are important as they can bring clarity to concepts that you may not be very clear about when studying on your own, right? So sometimes when you're studying on your own, you come across some concepts that you're not so sure about, right? And the second opinion is useful in these circumstances, right? So when you're studying in groups, you're likely to get different perspectives from different persons, different individuals, right? And more than likely, some amount of misconception may be cleared up by a friend, right? By someone from the group. So always try as best as possible to, study on your own, but yes, be a part of a group also. All right. The next tip that I have for you, all 5 questions on paper 2 values 20 marks. Equal emphasis should be placed on all of them, right? And I'm saying this because oftentimes I see where students overemphasize certain questions, right? They place too much emphasis on questions on regional integration, especially, right? As if to say you're getting more marks from regional integration. And the truth is you're not, right? The same marks that you're getting for family is the same marks that you're getting for regional integration. The same marks for tourism, the same marks for communication. All the questions, all 5 questions that you will answer on paper 2 values 20 marks. So please ensure that you place equal emphasis on all of them. All right. The next tip that I have for you guys, as this one relates to the strategies, right? Formulate, categorize, and practice your strategies, right? I'm talking about those strategies that you are usually required to come up with, right? We know how social studies questions are structured by now. They often ask you to formulate some strategies in the exam and say why you think they are likely to be successful, right? We call that part the justification. So what I'm saying here is that prior to going into the exam, in your practice sessions, you need to ensure that you formulate certain strategies, right? You come up with some strategies, have some strategies in your head before you go in the exam. And what you can do now is to categorize them, place them under different categories, because you will have an idea after going through several past papers. You will have an idea of what the questions usually focus on, right? So here I have gone ahead and formulate my own categories, right? So my first category is developing awareness, right? So these particular strategies, they focus on any question that would require you to develop an awareness of something, right? So the strategies, the possible strategies that you can use under this category is education, right? Creating apps, creating social media pages, right? So you are free to go ahead and comment in the comment section, make your own suggestion as to what strategies you think you can put under this particular category or any other categories that I have listed here, right? My second category, promoting, and we're talking about ideas or events, right? So you know that social studies, they normally ask you to promote an idea or to promote some sort of event, right? So my strategies here that I've come up with, competition, advertising, and giving rewards or incentives, right? So that's my second category. My third category is assisting, right? Sometimes there are questions that ask about what persons can do to assist certain groups of people, right? So my possible strategies are subsidizing cost, right? So the government can basically give a percentage of the cost of whatever, to assist somebody or some group. The second strategy, forming partnerships, right? With a local partnership, with a partnership with overseas persons or whatever, right? You will have to know how to use these strategies depending on what the question is asking. All right. The third strategy under assisting is encourage investors, right? So again, whether local investors, whether foreign investors, that is another strategy that would fall under my category of assisting, right? The fourth and final category that I have created is preventing, right? And under preventing, I have establishing laws to educate. Education is always a good strategy, by the way. And conducting needs assessment studies, right? Needs assessment studies are basically studies that you would carry out to find out what you have and what you need, right? This particular strategy would relate more to like labor shortage or food shortage or something of the sort, right? Because sometimes, it is best if the government try to prevent these things from happening. And the best way, I think, in preventing these things is to really carry out a needs assessment, find out what you need, right? If you realize that the country lacks human resource in a particular field, you need to find out, you need to try and find out, do some sort of study to see, what type of labor the country will need, and train people accordingly, train people in the country to fill these positions, rather than to wait until you realize that there is a massive labor shortage and then you will have to import labor from outside the country, right, or the region, right? So conducting needs assessment studies. So those are the 4 categories that I have come up with. Feel free to leave your comments as to additional categories and strategies that we can use in our study sessions. All right. The 6th tip that I have for you: study from different sources. I mean, this is quite obvious, right? You have to study from your textbooks and study from different textbooks as well, not just one textbook. Study from your notebooks, obviously. YouTube channels. There are many YouTube channels out there focusing on social studies. You understand? So if you're on my channel, for example, and there's something that you don't like how I explain a particular concept, you may just go over to another channel. You understand? There are many YouTube channels, as I said before, and all of them, as far as I know, they are doing very well. You understand? So I would encourage you to really make sure that you make use of the YouTube channels. They are out there at your disposal, students, so please make sure that you make use of them. All right. Google is always an option, especially as it relates to getting definitions for certain concepts, right? So study from different sources. All right. Identify your weaknesses and work to improve them. All right. So I have done this with my students. You need to identify what areas you're failing in, what areas you're not so strong on, right? So whether it is comprehension, the understanding the questions, whether it's expression, you just don't know, what to say. You have an idea of what you want to say, but you don't know how to put it in words, right? Or whether it is answering multiple choice question. You need to ensure that you identify your weakness, right? I know a lot of students struggle with comprehension, right? They read the question, but they just don't understand what it is saying, right? And as I said earlier, if you make a glossary of terms, right, that will help you to develop your vocabulary, and that will help you with your comprehension, right? As it relates to expressing, I think, to address expression, students just need to read more and write more. Instead of writing text messages, write a poem, write a book, write a story. You understand? Try to, practice your writing so that it becomes a part of you. You can express yourselves freely, right? So I think that is one of the problems. As it relates to multiple choice questions, sometimes it's just lack of confidence, right? Because you can do multiple choice by process of elimination, meaning you read through all the possible answers and you eliminate the odd ones, right? Because usually there are some very obvious ones that are not the answers. So you can eliminate those, and then you, of course, will arrive sometimes at, 2 that are close. But sometimes if you look at them very closely, you should be able to identify the correct answer, right? So just ensure that you're confident in what you're doing. Ensure that you read all the possible the options for the multiple choice questions, and that you end up selecting the correct answer. All right. The eighth tip that I have for you: read questions carefully before you attempt to answer them. Some students are guilty of this. They just don't read the questions carefully. I have heard it time and time again when students say to me, "Sir, I did not read the question carefully. I did not read the question properly. I didn't know that this is what the question was asking, right? So you need to ensure that you read the question carefully before you attempt to answer them. All right. Next tip, double check your responses or your answers after you have completed your exam, right? For some reason, I don't know, I always get the impression that some students are in a race. You understand? They finish the exam, they close the booklet, and that's it. They put away the paper, they don't double check, right? If you have time, as long as you have time, students, you should double check your answers, right? Because sometimes it is when you're reading over that you will identify your mistakes. It is when you're reading over that, additional ideas may come to you and you may end up getting 1 or 2 extra mark, right? So please ensure that you double check your responses and after you complete your exam. All right. 10th and last, give your brain a rest and you will do better on the test. I think this is self-explanatory. You need to rest, right? Rest is very, very important. It makes no sense you're studying right throughout the day, throughout the night, and you go in the exam very tired. You have to rest your brain, students. This is very, very important. All right. So if you like the video, please ensure that you give it a thumbs up. Please ensure that you share it with your friends and your families, and please ensure, if you have not done so yet, please ensure that you subscribe to the channel. And after you have subscribed, please hit that notification bell for immediate notifications whenever I post a new video. All right, so that is where we will stop for today. I really hope that you would have learned something from today's class, and I will see you in the next class. Best wishes on your exams, everyone.